Hey, it's Jim from G2H Companies. Just wanted to jump on for a second today and talk about some of the basics in real estate underwriting. I posted something up on Reddit the other day, which got a pretty good response actually. And I'm just kind of going to go through some of the questions that I got most commonly over on that. Can I ask me anything? Because there was a lot of stuff on there that I was kind of surprised to see some misunderstanding on, to be honest. So I think the number one main thing is to just build a really good foundation. So if you don't have a good foundation in place, the rest of the stuff is going to be really, really difficult to get your arms around. And one of the most fundamental pieces of kind of valuing and understanding an investment property is to understand the income approach. And the income approach uses capitalized values, which is where you get your cap rate. And a cap rate is a really, really, really simple metric, okay? It's not complicated. If you are doing big, long equations to figure out what a cap rate is on a property, you really are going too far. So a cap rate is just simply kind of an expression of a return. So this is from Investopedia. I did not make this up. So what is the capitalization rate? The capitalization rate, also known as cap rate, is used in the world of commercial real estate to indicate the rate of return that is expected to be generated on a real estate investment property. It is very simply the return on the property. So where it gets a little muddy is there is a real cap rate, which is based on a purchase price. And then there are forecasted cap rates, which is you essentially guessing what the market is and what you're going to buy the property at. But, in real terms, a cap rate is just a simple expression of return. And so I did a couple of really easy, simple examples here. We have property 1, 2, and property 3. And this will kind of highlight a couple of the main pieces I think people are missing. So this is all you need right here. You need effective gross income, total expenses, and your net operating income. Okay. So these are really the main pieces that you need to generate this information. And then you have to assign a market cap rate. That is a number you choose. You have to choose it. You have to guess or pick. Maybe the more involved you are in the market, the more sure of this number you're going to be. But make no mistake, this is a guess. Until you have somebody that will pay you a certain amount of money for the property, you are guessing what it's worth. Okay, so just let's get that out of the way. This is a guess at value. Okay. And what you see here is Whisper pricing cap rate. So we'll get to that in a second. To start, to get an in-place cap rate, and that's all cap rate looks as an in-place return. Okay. It does not take into consideration debt or any of those other things. It is at a property level, not a partnership level. At a property level, what is the return? So if you have a property that makes $100,000 in EGI, effective gross income, and spends $50,000 a year on whatever, you'll end up with a net operating income of $50,000. Okay. And if your market cap rate is 5.25, that gives you a value of $952,380.95. And that's it. That's what the value is. That's what a cap rate is. That's it. That's all there is to it. There is nothing else included in this calculation. You can make it a lot more complicated and add and reassess taxes and all this other kind of stuff. But at its core, fundamentally, this is all a cap rate is, right? And so, I think here I gave a couple different examples, right? So if it was a $200,000 property, it's 1.9, $300,000, it's 2.8. And again, these are just taking this number, your net operating income, dividing it by your market cap rate. That is how you get your target market value. That's it. That's all you got to do. And then down here, you get the whisper pricing. And this is where it can get a little complicated, right? Because it's like, okay, well, cap rate is a little bit of an obscure metric because it's decided by the market. It's not something set in stone. You can't go on the internet and find out what the right cap rate is. It is something you're going to have to negotiate in the market. And it's really set by you and your personal investment returns. It's just one of the simplest ways to express value with an investment property. So what you see here is that the market cap rate is 5.25 in this hypothetical example, and the whisper cap rate is 5, which means that there is a bid-ask spread of 25 basis points. So you'll hear that a lot. People say, oh, well, when are we going to close the bid-ask spread? That's all it means, is that the market is saying this is worth 5.25, and the seller, the person who controls the asset, is saying it's worth 5. The question is, what is it really worth, right? Is it worth what the market will buy it for, Or is it worth what the seller will sell it for, right? So this is where the whole discussion starts up and people get lost in the sauce, so to speak. So at a really basic level, your cap rate is just measuring the return at the property level. Okay, that's it. If you start to time series, et cetera, you know you're in the wrong, right? So here's Investopedia's page. While a cap rate can be useful for quick comparing the relative value of similar real estate investments in the market, it should not be used as a sole indicator of investment strength because it does not take into account leverage, the time value of money, or future cash flows. It doesn't look into the future. If you're trying to do an NOI, or if you're trying, not an NOI, if you're trying to do a cap rate calculation and you are discounting future cash flows, what you need to be doing is looking at your leverage internal rate of return or just the flat internal rate of return, or maybe even a cash on cash return. But you certainly should not be looking at cap rate. A cap rate does not take into account leverage or any partnership level expenses like that. The property can stand on its own. It doesn't need debt. Right? So this is all that there is to it. Okay, that's it. This is what cap rate is. It's as simple as that. Now, forecasting cap rate out into the future and forecasting cash flows and being able to accurately determine a terminal cap rate, which is, this is a cap rate when buy the property. The terminal cap rate is what you would sell the property at, in essence. So all of those things are difficult and they require big equations and a lot of knowledge and and a lot of learning, but that's not what a cap rate is. Like, this is all it is. A cap rate is a simple expression of value. And honestly, there are so many things in real estate that are so complicated. I would suggest you just let this one be simple. Really. It's a very simple expression of return at a property level. It does not take into account time series. It does not take into account future cash flows. It does not. It literally is a snapshot right now. The property makes this much money. If I was to sell the property for this price, this is the cap rate. That's all it says. And it's a good relative indicator. It's something that is very kitschy. It's people love talking about it, but really it is like one of the most simple return metrics that you can measure at a property level.